curb and sidewalk at predetermined locations where it is feasible to do so. Some more examples. Our chapter 18 of our highway design manual requires us to accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists in our project. So West Falls is including sidewalk and ADA accommodations in that portion of the reconstruction area. Also part of this project, we have 9 culvert replacements in the corridor. We have 2 on the northern section, 1 in the West Falls, and the remaining, what is that, 6 of them in the south of West Falls section. And these would be full replacements. Our anticipated project schedule is design approval, which we just received design approval here in November. We're in final design right now. And we're expecting a March 24 letting and construction completion in the fall of 25. Our contact information is here. And that's all we have here for us as questions or concerns.
Any questions from the board? Nobody? Anything from you, Luke?
Yeah. So Brian, can you talk, where are the sidewalks going to be in the, is it the whole 0.9 mile section of the hamlet?
Any questions from the board?
You can say that again.
So we're still in final design, so I can share you some of the updates. First one.
Oh, you had to share that, not share this one.
If you're screen sharing, they should be able to see it.
Can you guys see the plan sheet here?
Nope. No, we don't see it right now.
This one, yes.
Can see it now.
Yeah, can you end your share and share again? There's something with the way it's sharing right now. Try to reshare your screen.
Yeah, we're only get about like 1/16 of the picture.
Okay. Do it again.
He's a numbers guy. He knows those percentages.
Is that better?
It's the same.
You want to see the top left corner.
Top right corner, you can go full screen, Brian.
Here.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Not really.
All right. Not sure what I can do about that.
I'm not sure what they seeing right now though.
All right, can you see that screen? A little bit better? Yes.
About the same, yeah.
All right, I don't think I can zoom in.
Control. Zoom.
Z.
Here. Are you guys seeing like this 1/16 of the screen, or are you guys seeing the?
Yeah, we're seeing like 1/16 of the screen.
Share screen. What about now? What are you guys seeing?
Same.
Same thing?
YouTube looks good.
YouTube looks great.
Yeah, something, it's probably with our end of the Zoom here. Go to hide self view, yeah. Hit full screen there.
You want a full screen?
No, not on our end. If you go full screen, Liz, there you go. Nope,
What was the question?
the sidewalks, yeah.
I think we're zoomed in.
They're not low, yeah, they're, yeah.
Hey, we're in business.
Yep, all right, we can see you now.
Okay. So just hit this next button. You can just go through this.
There, now we understand it.
Yes.
And just hit the next one right here.
My math on the way home today. Red line.
All right, so on the far left of your screen, is the bridge joint where it crosses Cass Creek on 240. So we don't have sidewalks starting anywhere in this section here.
Brian, what road is that on the left side of the screen on that the last picture, right where you started? What road is that? Right there.
Or
All right.
Bame?
So this is all
Burr,
golden,
it's
yeah.
all the way down.
or it's right before that bridge. It crosses Cass.
That's the
That's as far south as the project goes, right? Okay.
I thought. We did that.
So then we come up a couple streets, sort of hard to tell here, but, let me move that out of the way. We have our closed drainage starting roughly at house 2137. Our closed drainage starts just north of that driveway. So the closed drainage continues. There's no sidewalk, so the sidewalk starts here just south of house 2015 driveway. And that'll be just on the left side or the west side of the road.
How is the sidewalk indicated on that map? Sorry, Brian, this is Joe. Is it that red or what are you seeing that tells you a sidewalk started? That purple? That blue dot?
Yeah. There's
Okay.
a ADA ramp right here.
Okay.
Then up here it says proposed sidewalk, 5 foot. There's a leader line showing. The colored lines are, the blue is your proposed drainage. The red is overhead electric. And the purple, I believe, is our water line. Yes, that's water.
And the proposed drainage, that's essentially from the streets or something like that, because I know that the neighbors have complained quite often about their drainage on their own property. Is there any way for them to tie into that?
If they want to, like, they would have to file a highway permit. If they have any drainage issues in order to get work into our system. Specifically, if they have like drainage, like in their basement or something like that, or gutters, whatever, we propose a bubbler system. But they would have to file a highway work permit.
And that's with New York State Highway or New York State DOT?
Yeah.
Okay, and is that something that would be preferable before you begin the project?
Yes, like they need to do ASAP. I'm working with one homeowner that has 2 properties right now, and they submitted their paperwork last month. We did discuss this at the Colden meeting and the West Falls meeting, that's what they would have to do.
Okay, thank you.
So how far east then do the sidewalks go?
All right, we'll continue on here.
East or north?
So
So the sidewalk continues on the west side. And then we come up the bridge.
Way before Bridge Street.
Yeah, it comes all the way up the Bridge Street on the west side. And then we have a crossing here. Before Bridge Street, where the new sidewalk starts right in front of the library. So basically where this mid-block crossing is here. The sidewalk continues on the begins on the east side. And it still continues on the west side. And the sidewalk was intermediate, there was some gaps on the west side up here near the Bridge Street. When you got past Bridge Street, the sidewalk started up again. So some of this is existing sidewalk, so we're just connecting into it. Making it one cohesive section of pedestrian access in this part of West Falls. And then as we continue past Bridge Street, the sidewalk continues on the west side. And it also continues on the east side,
Yes,
correct?
yes, it is.
As we move further down through, we move by the dog bar. The blueberry tree house here is right here at house 1887. And then we get to the culvert that's by the fire hall, which we're doing a full replacement right here. This will all be curbed. And then the sidewalk ends right here on the east side, right before 1664. And then on the west side, it continues on. And then the sidewalk stops at Baham Road. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Baham Road, on the west side. And that's our end of our reconstruction limits here, just north of the intersection here.
Now, Brian, could you go back one of the pages? I just had a question about where the fire hall is. And if there's a need for it, or at least a perceived need, if there'd be the ability to put a flashing light that could be controlled by the fire company for when there's an emergency and they're trying to exit their lot. Because there's a curb at the road. I think it might be the other slide, a little further north. Wherever the culvert and the curb sidewalk begins, but wherever the culvert is in front of the fire hall.
Yeah, so I believe the fire hall's right here. This is their parking lot. The next slide to the right, or back, is the edge of their property line, pretty much almost.
Oh yeah, you're right. So it'd be a little further north. So whatever that other slide was.
Yeah. So right here, this is the Golden Fire Hall. So a flashing fire signal is what you're asking for?
Correct.
Okay, so that would have to, you guys, the municipality would have to request something from our regional traffic engineer on the warrants of having a fire signal there. And you'd have to send that to Brian Kirby. He's the acting regional traffic engineer. Currently, our project does not include adding a fire signal at this location.
And there's not a crosswalk there either, is there, when the sidewalk ends?
No. No.
If it was something that was requested, who would it be requested by and who would it be sent to? Additional crosswalk anywhere along this 0.9 miles?
You can request it to the regional traffic engineer. I can bring it up to him. It's highly unlikely that an additional, pedestrian crossing will be, permitted in this portion unless, according to chapter 18 of our highway design manual, there's a candidate location. You could have a candidate location in this corridor. However, the minimum requirement is to have 20 pedestrians per peak hour for a marked crosswalk in this corridor. And I don't think, I don't know if there is 20 pedestrians in this corridor per peak hour to meet that criteria.
Is a peak hour something like 5 to 6 or 6 to 7, or a particular hour where it is peak in that area?
Like 3 to 6 or 3 to 5 is your peak hours, or from 6 to 9, they're usually commuting hours. So
Right.
you'd have to have like 20 pedestrians every hour between 6 and 9 and 3 and 6.
So I think the the concern on this side is that there is on one side of the street, the fire department, the fire hall. And on the other side is the art center. And these two organizations use the parking of the other group. So there could be up to 50 people that cross within an hour and more, depending on if it's an event.
Right. And
Yeah.
many events are there per year.
How many events, Jim, are at the Westfall Center for the Arts?
There's 150 events a year, but the use of the parking lot across the street is probably closer to 75 to 100 a year.
And then how many times the fire department using your parking?
I guess like twice a month, maybe. So maybe 25.
So about 100.
25 times, unless they have a special meeting or a party or event,
Yeah.
like the parade and that kind of stuff.
Okay, is that just seasonal, or is it year round for all those events, or is it?
It's year round for everything, for
Okay.
on both sides of the street.
We'll take it under consideration, but I would request that also to send it to the regional traffic engineer. Brian Kirby. And I can provide that information to Luke if you want to submit that request for a crosswalk here.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I think they need a flip, some kind of flip.
I think it looks great. You know, one thing that we've got out there that Brian and I have spoken about is the New York Forward Grant and how they would alter this. But that has not come through yet, so nothing really to talk about there. The only other thing, I guess, is if Dave had any thoughts on anything. I don't know if you got here a little late, snowing up.
Yeah, no, we had a plow off on beach, so we got her out. I've been kept up to speed with Heather McCourt, the district engineer. We talked today. She's going to be getting me the whole file. It's 199 pages, and we'll have that on file. But yeah, you caught the most of it. It's I think a great thing for the community, and we're going to be working close with them.
Okay. So what I sent out to you guys a couple weeks ago, this is an updated set, so it may look a little bit different from what you guys have on file. So we're really trying to get this out. Our deadline, we're submitting this to Albany in January. So we have a lot of work to do between now and then. So if you have any news on your end on anything that you need of concern, please let us know right away.
Yep, we'll definitely do that. Well, I thank you very much. It looks like a great project. I'm really happy that in the end we got that 0.9 miles with all the bells and whistles. I don't have any other questions. I don't know if anybody else.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks. Other people.
Okay. Moving on.
It was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. We have a temporary use permit for Knox State Park for a soccer tournament. This application is for the Lancaster Soccer Club to be held. The dates of the event are 7/26 to 7/28, 2024. Hours of operation will be starting at 7/24 at 10 a.m. and it ends at 7/28, 8 p.m. I believe we have a letter of recommendation for it. I do not see any insurance for it.
Yeah, it was signed.
We have it, okay. Okay. All right. Any comment, the board?
They don't have any porta potties listed here that I saw anyway, Chris. They don't need porta potties.
That's not my knowledge. Do you have anyone here?
Who's on Zoom?
Hi, Tony
Hello.
Manetta from Lancaster. Hi, guys. Everybody.
Well,
Sorry. Tony.
Want to give me a question?
Yes, Tony, you don't have any porta potties listed on the application? Is that,
Yeah, we typically, last year we rented them we rented them, so we plan to do the same. I thought I would have put those on there, but I might have forgotten about that, but we rented them this past year and we'll rent them again. So if it's not on there, I can amend the application if it needs to be.
well, just want to make sure those don't get missed.
No.
It's important. Any other questions?
I guess for clarification, this isn't for Tony, but thank you for joining us. So I guess the difference between this, I obviously we took a dim view towards that lacrosse, was it a lacrosse tournament that we weren't too keen on, but this is working in conjunction evidently with the Arsenals, and it's also doesn't pose the same risk to the fields, I presume. What is the date for this? I guess I'm going to miss that. End of July. So the field should be, it was, the other thing I think was early spring, if I remember correctly. So I can see where this is materially different than the event we had our concerns about it in terms of lacrosse. So
Mr. Sorgi's online too, if we want to.
So, and while you wrote a letter, right, Peter, you online?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. That saying
Yes.
this, you guys work hand in hand with this tournament and it's
Yeah,
just
they've been
clusters.
great. Yeah, it's almost like we get to have a tournament without doing all the work. We love it. And Tony and his club have been great to us. They treat those fields like their own. In terms of the timing, it's perfect for us too, because literally the day before the tournament starts is the last day of our season, of our travel season. So we're done with the fields. It's a perfect time, and all of our teams playing it. It's convenient for us. We get a substantial discount, so the Arsenal saves a lot of money on it. So we're very, very much in support of it.
That leaves my concerns. Thank you.
Anything else? If not, we'll put it on the agenda for our meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have another temporary use permit for Knox State Park for the 2024 Eclipse parking. And this is in the name of the Friends of Knox. Date again 4/8/24, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And this is for the parking for the Total Eclipse event at the polo field. Again, Martha, do we have insurance on that?
Send insurance for them.
Okay. Any problems with this, Dave, that you can see?
Do you think they'll need crossing guards? That was the one thing I was concerned about. They have the number 2,000, but
up to 2,500.
What's that?
It said up to 2,000 to 2,500.
Yeah, I think talking to the Friends of Knox, they're expecting a huge crowd for this.
Right.
Yeah.
And do we remember how many at Borderland on Saturday, their busiest day? 5,000?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, it's usually during the day.
It is, I heard schools, a lot of schools were canceling. I don't know if East Aurora is doing the same thing on the 8th.
And mainly it's just because everybody's saying there's gonna be gridlock.
Yeah.
Is that a work day anyway?
It is, it's a Monday.
Provide a lot.
Yeah, but I'm just, right, but if school's in session, it's gonna be a full lot already and they're not gonna be able to park there, but if it isn't, then people might need to cross.
Perfect.
Staffed at the cross.
Safety first.
Yeah, the crossroad.
Any other questions on that? Not, we'll put it on the agenda.
Chris,
President Knox asked to waive the per diem fee. They said that's happened before, I don't recall. That we have agreement with them waiving fees, but that's what they had asked.
I know of no agreement.
No.
I don't think they're charging anything for it. I think it's a service to whoever, I guess, I was gonna say the community, but whoever's interested in it.
Do we need an agreement though?
What, do we have an agreement? We don't charge borderland, is that correct? For parking, we do?
We do.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, we just can't arbitrarily, right?
I don't know, Martha, you don't know of an agreement, do you? I don't.
I mean, yeah. I almost want to put this on hold just a little bit to think about it because 2,500 people is a lot of people.
It is.
And I know there's not going to be any food or drink, but there will be people eating and drinking probably. What time of the day is the eclipse?
11 a.m. to 7 p.m.
No, but the eclipse itself, so people might be showing up all at the same time versus.
And it's going to be
borderland throughout the day.
right. It's going to be a lot of people showing up and leaving at the same time.
They have a lot of events scheduled as well. It's not just gonna be show up for they have a full day of events, science and education and yeah.
It's gonna have a booth too.
Recreation booth.
Recreation booth.
So kick it up to like 3,500 at that, right?
I wouldn't.
For sure.
I think it'd be important to, if we're gonna start waiving fees, they have a policy or.
And we had spoken about
you
that
just
policy,
can't
but
pick and choose.
Yeah.
What's
We might even need porta potties at the parking.
that's what I was
Maybe
going to
that many
say.
people
Porta
park
potties
there.
with that many people. I mean, trash collection, the whole thing. And I think that we can help them out, but there's no hurry on this, right? I would almost want to put the brakes on. Have they met with you, Dave, or you, Shane?
So Karen Jones is running this.
Right. That's the other issue is it could be
Yeah. I don't think they're in a hurry. Karen Jones had reached out to me about this because she's kind of running it. And I said, make sure you ask for permission if you think you're gonna need parking. And I think that's why it showed up on our docket so quickly. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think
Maybe table it
they're not
tonight.
nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe develop some kind of policy and get some of the questions that you have answered. before.
right. Yeah. Especially traffic, because if people are going to be looking for, even the people in town who are looking for a location to see this, and then you're going to be leaving at the same time to get back to work.
We
That could
also need
be,
insurance.
and the insurance. Yeah. So.
Sweeper, Dave, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah,
We're going to limit them.
so I met with Deputy Supervisor Schneider and Councilman Ochensky, and we went way ahead to 2035 with a 10-year plan of equipment that the town highway should have. Now that we've gotten to where we're rotating all our equipment, we can actually plan for this type of stuff. So it's kind of a good program. Hopefully we can stick close to that, right, Chuck?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a forecast.
It's a forecast, yeah. So for the two newer board members, for the past we've had 3 of these municipal waste reduction and recycling grants that we've applied for in the past. The latest one was in 2019. What they are is they're equipment grants where the state funds us back half of the purchase costs towards equipment for recycling. So the last one that we did, our high lift and a bunch of recycled totes were thrown in it. We got approved for that in 2019. And how it works is you go on a waiting list and they're assigned a number, and it usually takes about 5 years. So we just got notified that it looks like by spring or not much after, our next grant will be coming, and the total refunded is $100,775. So when I saw that, it made me start turning my wheels about, we really need to start thinking about applying for our next one because they take 5 years to get. So I came up with an idea. We have one leaf sucker that's a 1997. It's at the end of its useful life and it's time to replace. And I found a creative option, which is a hook lift leaf sucker, which will go on our current hook lift truck. So we don't have to buy a hook lift. And what this leaf sucker actually is a one-man operated leaf sucker. It'll actually bring us into the 21st century with a joystick, and the truck driver will literally just drive around and run his joystick and suck all the leaves up. And so anyway, it's a perfect thing that's 100% approved for this recycle grant. So I believe that we should go ahead and move forward with purchasing this. I know we don't have the funding that we put in the budget, but knowing that we have the grant money coming next year, worst case scenario, our fund balance has been very healthy. Whereas if the grant was delayed, I think it's something that we could do. We went ahead and we put in an order contingent on this meeting just to hold the price because the price went up last week because of the new pricing levels.
Yep.
So, but that was contingent on the board meeting. So I'd like to keep updating, knowing that we're going to keep applying for these recycle grants. Now, with the equipment plan that the two councilmen and we put together, we actually, in December, Town Clerk Leibrock and Liz, our office manager, are going to be putting together our next recycle grant. And with future purchases, this is going to be a $750,000 wish list recycle grant. Okay, so this is where we're headed, hopefully, and it includes, and in 2 years, purchasing a one-man operated leaf sucker that's self-contained with its own truck, and it also includes planning for replacing the grapple truck, which will be 10 years old. So it's kind of smart that there's no risk to put in for the grant. You can put in whatever you want. If you don't ever buy it, you just don't get it. Okay. So with that, I think it's smart to go ahead and start putting in a grant with a good wish list. And if it comes to fruition, then we'll recoup $375,000 down the road. So I think I know at least in Erie County, we will be the first town and that has a one-man plow truck, a one-man brush pickup, and a one-man leaf pickup. So it's kind of exciting. I think as we go forward with the technologies we've already brought to the town, we increase our productivity and our service level to the residents. So I'd like to go ahead and buy that, even though we didn't budget for it. But that was the first item. Okay. Anyone have a question on that before we go to the next one? Or
How nailed down is the grant? I mean, you got notification, you want it?
Yeah, in fact, that's something that's already, in fact, Joe, I'll bring it over to you. It's funded for the next 5 years already. It's a good question because with Albany, you're right. I mean, sometimes it's just not put in the budget, but I have it here somewhere. Anyway, it's already pre-funded till 2028.
Gotcha.
It's a municipal grant. Okay.
Dave, I mean, this is kind of a cycle thing that you've gotten into and done a great job with.
Yeah.
You know, where the grants keep coming around at certain
Thank you.
certain times of year and so on. But just maybe explain to us why you want to replace that grapple truck in 5 years.
Oh, okay. So you're right. The grapple truck is a 2017. So us putting it in the grant in 2023 on our plan for the 10-year plan, the grapple truck isn't actually till 2027. So it's not something we're going to be buying now. It's just we have to have it bought and paid for with a canceled check by the time the grant comes to fruition. So it's one of these things that you throw out a wish list and you actually budget it higher than it should cost because they'll just cut it. So does that answer that question?
Well, and we'll get X amount of dollars for that truck.
Exactly. And we did. That was the grant before this one, Chuck. Yes. And we ended up buying the high lift with it. I think 175 grand we got back. I think the first grant we did was that hook lift truck, Jim, back in 2013. So this is our third grant now. This will be the fourth grant. So over the course of those three already, I think we've already recovered about $500,000 in free equipment. Yeah. So and provided more services to the town. It's a win-win.
And had nice.
A lot of towns don't
up-to-date-
take advantage of this. So I think that it's one of these things that if you're okay with investing and knowing you won't get the money back for 5 years, it's well worth doing. So,
Well, I think, again, when we all started kind of together.
yeah,
And what they did before is they bought all their trucks in 1 year,
right.
bonded everything.
Yes.
And of course, when you do that, they all wear out at the same time. And you started that program of rotating equipment, best thing you ever did. And now we're going to be almost debt free
Next year with the town highway will be debt free
because we won't have
with
those.
the interest rates
big
right now.
bonds.
That's a very good position
Yep.
to be in.
Yeah.
And then the one man plows, if we can get other equipment for one to do the same thing, do the same work. I mean, how many times have you get a comment from a resident that why is there two guys standing there and one guy? You've got the equipment, the technology to do it, probably safer on their backs, everything.
Well,
else.
it mentioned that with the grapple truck, the amount of injuries that towns have from doing brush pickup through a chipper, it's really pretty amazing. So you're right.
So it's a good plan.
Yeah. And it's not going to happen overnight. We're not going to have one man leaf suckers out there all, within a few years. It's going to take years to implement this, but it's a start. And like I told Chuck and Luke, at least it gives us one to try with and make sure that it is going to work in our town. I mean, it's definitely gonna be a little bit different. I mean, now we have a raker that literally rakes the leaves. So it's going to be a change and it's going to be different from the residents too. So, but I think if we look at this as a 10-year plan, this is a really good thing. In 10 years, we should be ahead of the game, much farther ahead than other people.
Yeah, and I have a question. It's either for Chuck, Luke, or Dave. Obviously this is it's a lot of money. It sounds like it's a great investment. It's the right thing to do. The funds are available within our budget to accomplish this.
Well, this is contingent upon the budget.
Right.
Contingent upon those funds being in the budget to do this.
If you're talking about the sweeper,
Yeah.
If you're talking about the leaf vacuum, two things: to just order a regular leaf vacuum to replace the 97 is 70 grand. So the one man sucker is about 55 grand more. At this time, we did not plan or budget for that in the 2024 budget. I already know from our pickup truck bid, we're already $6 grand there that we have. And again, if everything goes like it should, talking to Albany, we should have another 100 grand coming in there. We're going to be pretty close. And if it came down to it, we could always manipulate some of our road money,
Okay.
But I do have to caution, if that grant check doesn't come in for the 100 grand, then we probably will have to talk about it with the fund balance. But the fund balance is very strong. So it would be a temporary thing. And we have bought things out of the fund balance, but it wasn't in our terms. It hasn't been done before, but you can do that. So if you're not comfortable with that, then you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Dave, plus
Well-
you're going to be trading in that equipment or selling, surplusing it. So
Yes,
there's
right. So,
some-
and you're right there. You do recoup some there. So I think that push came to shove, even if the grant was late. I can usually finagle some money around. I just don't. I just want to put it out there.
There is some risk.
How do I say that?
There is. I mean, that's a good question. There
Yes.
certainly is some risk.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I think the benefits are worth it.
So our number assigned is 1428, whatever that number means. Right now they're at 1409. They average about 40 of these get approved a year. So if you just look at that historically, this should hopefully by April or May be in. The leaf vacuum won't be here till late summer. So it should be in already, but it is a risk. Yeah.
So the risk that you're talking about is not the risk of getting the money. It's the risk of getting the money in 2024. Do I understand that correctly?
The risk is we didn't budget for this piece of equipment.
I got that. But you had said we don't have to worry about the grant. The grant's coming our way.
Yes.
But we
It's
don't
just
have the
when will
time.
the check
Gotcha.
show up in the mailbox. Will it beat the piece of equipment or not?
I got you. Okay.
The projections are it will.
As long as we know the money's coming in, that'll
Yeah, and that's
certainly-
like
we have
I
to fill a
said.
gap. That's different than having to come up with money we didn't plan on spending.
Yeah, here, I'll just bring this up. You can pass it around. It shows that it's fully funded till 2027, that grant program. So the money's there. It's just, how till it shows up in your mailbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It says what he says.
That's all.
Did I read it correctly?
We had discussed this and had the same questions, Chuck and I did, and there is a healthy fund balance that if it doesn't show up, worst case scenario, you're gonna reduce your fund balance, but then you would be making up for it the next year. So
That's correct.
Yeah, that's
You
the
can
only
look at it
clarification I
that
got.
way. If the
Yeah.
check didn't come, you're just
Usually
putting
work
it back
with
in the
that.
fund balance.
Sounds
One way or
good.
another. It's
Good question.
Thank you, Dave.
okay.
Any other questions? All right.
Now the sweeper, is that what we're talking about next?
Yep.
Okay, so the sweeper is just on our schedule for replacement. Our one we have now is a 2002. It's just more like Jim mentioned, we literally have everything dialed into slots and it's such a big high expense.
Again,
It's a high expense that we literally have in 2025 at the current rate of our equipment purchasing, it fits in that hole really well. And because of the truck shortages, and we've done this now for like 3 years, all we're doing is we're getting the manufacturer to put us on the list. Okay. So this will be approved contingent on funding in the 2025 budget. And the vendor understands that. Okay. So let's say by next summer, whatever happens, we can get out of it. You get what I mean?
Right.
This is just to get our name on the list for purchase.
does the village still share the street sweeper? Weren't they using it? It's for some.
Yeah, they
some
just
point?
bought a new one with ARPA funding.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, they've had 3 in the time period. We've only had 1. So, so what's the question?
I didn't know if we were still sharing.
There's broke and
they use a short term thing.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I don't really see how we could ever really share. I mean, it's just because we both need them at certain times a year.
Gotcha.
But I guess that's a philosophical thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, at our highway department, I need a sweeper.
So you're saying we weren't sharing it with them, theirs broke and you.
No. We don't usually, there's not really a lot of reciprocation we do with DPW. We do help them when they need equipment or breakdowns, just like I'm sure they would if we ever did. That was just a time period. I think they went for a few months without a sweeper and we helped them out. For the town highway, it's a little easier than the village. They sweep pretty much year round because of obvious reasons with gutters and curbs. Our sweeping is mostly a good month and a half of cleaning up all the grit after winter and then our oil and chip season. And then the rest of the time, it doesn't get used a lot unless there's like a washout on the road, a big gully washer. So we were able to let the village use it for a little bit of time. That's why.
Thank you.
Okay.
And while you mentioned truck shortages, Dave, and seeing as we're having kind of a snowstorm here today, where are we with the White Star new plow truck and the what was the other one, a Freightliner or whatever? Are we good with all of that?
I don't want to say no. Our Western Star went out today and that call we just had a pretty bad break. One of the brand new plow. It's manufacturer problem, but anyway, so that truck is in. So it's a sore subject. So, but
I didn't mean that. We have everything and everything.
No. The Kenworth is
plow. Right.
Okay. Our 2023 plow is out and operational. It just had a wing issue. It'll be out for the next few days. The normal stuff when you get something new first time out. The
warranty, I'm guessing, real quick.
I sure hope so.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'll let you know. It should be. The 2024 Kenworth is in early. We don't pay that till January 1st. It's up in Watertown. It's ready to go. We just had a problem with the front drive shaft to the PTO, came with the wrong coupler on it. So it's waiting for Cummins to get us the right one. Harmonic balancer. You know what that is, Jim. And it came with the wrong one on. I was hoping to have that out this week, but it's until I can find the part from Cummins is sitting. So hopefully in the next few days, we'll have all our fleet up. So that kind of hurt us today. And also this snow hit us right in rush hour. So anybody that had trouble coming in today, apologize. We had a kind of tough storm. Every storm's a little different, but they're out peeling them up really good now.
All right. Any more questions? Are you good, Dave, or?
Can we just skip to me quick because Erie County Highway's looking for me? Can we just do your mini bid? Are you guys good with that?
Yep.
Okay, and then I'm gonna split. All right, if you're okay with that.
Yep.
Let's see on the subject page. Right?
Number 7 on the work session.
Now, I think Martha provides you all with the bid results on this. This was a good process. What it means is we're ordering directly from the factory. As you can see by the amount of bidders, it did open up quite a few more bids. And the price came down. We budgeted in the budget for 54,000. I think they're 48.5 somewhere around there. And I talked to the Van Bortle, and they assured me race red this time, Mr. Schneider.
Where is Van Bortle?
The Rochester.
Oh,
Yeah, so it may take up to 6 to 8 months, but it'll be coming from the factory. And this is for next year's budget. So.
Okay, so Dave, you have to leave, but going back to the street sweeper.
Yes.
If we're gonna approve that tonight, can we do it contingent upon the 2025 budget?
That's correct. Yeah, and it should say that. You should definitely in the minutes say contingent on funding and approval of the 2025 budget. And that's identical to how we've done that in the past. But as you know, it's a 2-year wait for trucks. So as soon as you can get on the list, and then hopefully they honor the price, which we found they sometimes don't, but hopefully they do.
I hope it's a quick question because I know you need to get out. It's a tough night to be inside. We'd rather be out. Looking at the bids, Van Bortles in Rochester. I don't have a problem with any of the places here, but Basil Ford has a bid that's like 100 or 200 more.
Right.
Are we required to take the lowest bid, or can we say, hey, we'd rather go with Basil, and you let me know? Because if it does break down, they're closer, they can fix it, or does that not even come into play? It doesn't matter where you get it.
Yeah, and I think Bridget would answer that. It is legal, but I never recommended doing that. I always feel like you live with your bed. These trucks are coming with a factory warranty, so it won't matter if we have to take them to Basil or West Her.
Okay.
I think, Jim, we had this question before, a different board member. Unless there was something compelling that benefited our taxpayer.
The only thing compelling is if you can take it anywhere, that's great. If you had to take it back to Rochester, you take it somewhere else.
That you can take it to any.
That's all I have. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I'd prefer just to whoever wins the bid.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah. Stay safe out there. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. No, not yet.
Continue.
Don't go nowhere, Jim.
Right. Next, number 5 on the work session is the Association of Towns Conference, the 2024 conference, which is in New York City. And we have a request Joe wants to attend. And we have to authorize that. Martha, we don't need an exact cost to authorize it, right? Just
as close as possible.
okay. What did you send this over?
Yeah, I sent that over. So that's the nightly stay at the place where they're hosting the conference, and they have a discounted rate. And then also the registration fee of $150. No, wait, it was registration for municipalities, $150. So, I mean, I'm guessing there'll be some tack onto that, but I can't.
Yeah, we usually look at the per diem and figure out, add that to it.
Okay.
And that would be like the maximum amount to be spent.
Okay. And the per diem's a known number, right?
Yeah, and then you have your travel back and forth.
So that'd be the only thing I'm lacking.
Right, depending on how you're getting there, if you're driving, it's mileage, things like that. We would have to add all that stuff up.
I mean, obviously I want to get registered as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So can we do, I guess do we need a maximum amount to vote on it tonight?
Well, you need to know that it's budgeted because
budgeted at 2,000.
Yeah. So it's not to exceed.
Well, if it does, and if we do it that way, then what if it goes over 2,000?
then you have to come before the board again and,
All right,
yeah.
you wouldn't mind, I mean, if.
No, it's fine.
2,000, you could just come back and ask.
Well, there you go. Why don't we do that then? That way I can go ahead and
if you need
get
to
registered.
use the card.
Yeah, I think that's the best bet.
I talked to Kathleen today, she said, just come in and see her.
Perfect.
And I thought if we were members that the registration was cheaper.
I went to the website and I saw that registration thing and I logged in and it came up with click which one you want, but
If to check, it should be in our Towns magazine. Probably our last Towns magazine, I'll have to look, but sometimes if you're a member, they discount like $50 or something.
Yeah.
But very good thing to go to.
Yeah, I-
Recommend highly.
Especially with the comprehensive plan process coming up, I thought it would tie in nicely.
So why don't we do if we do it as a motion not to exceed 2,000
And I'm sure it won't.
as
So,
budgeted?
yeah,
And then, if it goes over, then you just come back and request it.
sounds like a plan.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Any questions on that? Okay, next, the Olean rezoning discussion.
You know what, sorry, we should get Ray to the one that is in Rochester.
Yes.
We
And
do.
all that paperwork.
All
We
that
just got
paperwork?
it From the AMT to send to him.
Do we need to do that in the next meeting then, or is
We'll
that,
do that next
yeah,
meeting, yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I know, well, they, we can do it. I guess we. Sorry, go on.
Okay.
But I got that look from a lot of teachers in my day. Shut up, McCann.
You want to look at the note?
So, okay, we're talking about the rezoning. For Olean Road, and we'll just open up the discussion. I know we've got a letter from the town attorney that the owner his attorney called and said there might be some changes in the buffer area that we want to discuss. So I don't know where we want to start with this, guys. If we want to have Harrison come up and tell us what you're thinking. Want to start there?
Sure.
That'd be good.
I think that's good as far as.
Sure. How you doing tonight?
Good.
Good.
You made it.
Right into the mic if you could.
Okay, sure. So, we read the draft and it just, it is exactly as the name suggests. It's very restrictive. I see a couple of problems with it right off the bat. There is a well on that 4 acres that we don't own, and it's currently serviced. So there's a road that goes through the 4 acres as well.
Gas well?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. There's 2 wells actually on the 14 acres. One is on that 4 acre parcel and the other's on the 10 acre parcel.
Who owns the one on the?
Wheel, Weil. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
So they have an easement, basically have an easement on that.
Yeah, they own several. There's a well across the street, across Olean Road that they own as well.
All right.
So they own several going down Olean Road. So, that, I know that there's a clause in the document that says that we attest that there's nothing on there. I can't do that, obviously. But 4 acres just seems excessive. So, I had mentioned to my attorney the possibility of either changing the term so that it's not that clause is basically forever unless other properties convert to C2 or commercial, which, I don't know that that's ever going to happen. I don't know that the property owners are going to pursue this process. So that just seems like they're, the 4 acres is basically tied up forever. We don't have plans for it. That hasn't changed, but that clause makes it so that we can never do anything basically with the 4 acres.
Well, tell me again about the lease. Is that a forever lease? It can't be forever, right? For the gas? Well,
there's not a term on it that I'm aware of. They've owned it prior to our owning the property, but
open-ended.
Yeah. So that in itself might deem that section of property unusable, correct? Or
yeah, I wouldn't do anything within 100 feet. That's the
but this 4 acres was something you came to us about, right?
That's right.
Okay. It wasn't something that
and actually I didn't come to the board with 4 acres. I came to the board with 10 acres. I was planning on leaving the 4 acres as it is without any plans for it. Just leave it just the way it is. I only have plans for 10 acres. So,
And that the 4 acres is really not easily accessed anyways, because of the way that the terrain is on Olean Road there. So you'd have to do something sort of tangential to the slope just to get back up into that property. But there is a drainage culvert. I don't think that's what it's called, but it's a pipe that comes down through where the wetland is, off of the railroad tracks, so that drainage coming from higher elevations has a way to make it down to the wetlands area. And so that has become that road that the company that maintains the natural gas well uses. So it goes up, it crosses over the middle third of the 14 acres onto the southern end of the 14 acres so that they can access that.
I mean, yeah, just to jump in here, I think, your plans are really important to us. So what it is that you're planning on doing, even long term, if you could just let us know what that is, that really helps us out. The whole idea of that buffer zone came into play because that was what you had come and proposed to us, was the buffer zone. Now, again, like I said before, we make our decisions based on balancing your interests as a landowner with the interests of the neighboring landowners in the community. And that's something we're trying to do. So having that to be, as strict as it is, I mean, even if with a special use permit, you were to come in here and ask for a special use permit after there's rezoning and everything, that would still establish a buffer zone, and it would still not allow you to do anything on that property unless you came back to the board, this board or a future board or whatever, to sort of to re-establish what the special use permit is, or apply for a new one, or rezone that lot, or take the lot and separate it and do whatever you want to it. So for us, I think really, I don't know, for me, it's just understanding what it is that you're trying to do, and then we can go from there. This decision, the first decision is a zoning decision. I think we've been fairly clear that there's the bulk of the lot, all of the lot, something would be rezoned to commercial, and that's your first hurdle. But then after that, there will be a boundary zone that, no matter whether it's a conservation easement or not, that will restrict you from doing things on the property if the board so decides, that would not be changeable until you were to come in and request a change to that either. So I think if there are plans that you are concerned about now, 5 years down the road, it'd be better to get those out now, so we could then determine if that's going to be a residential lot, then maybe it's better to split that lot off, have that remain residential, and then we'll look at the 10-acre lot and look at the project with that new sort of environment that we have to think about. So I don't think we're not trying to do anything here with that overly restricts what it is you're doing on the property, but we do have to make a decision based on the information that we're getting. So
yeah, and honestly, I've disclosed this in the past. My planning is such that I'm an engineer, right? So my planning is, if I can get this far, then I'm going to establish the next steps. So my investment in this project is hinged literally on getting the zoning, because it doesn't make sense to go forward with, future plans or, any of the architectural things if I can't use it in that way. And so I'll keep it the way it is and figure out another use for the property.
So yeah, I understand that. And I think that's the issue that we have, is this commercial zone, but it's hung up on this, really only this 4-acre part of what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
And I think we're hung up because we don't quite understand, well, if it's a buffer zone, then it's a buffer zone. But if it's not a buffer zone, then will it be residential? Will it be a continuation of the golf club? Like, whatever it is that you're planning as your phase 2 project, even if you don't know, it'd be good to know that, look, at this 4 acres right now is not a buffer zone. We plan on selling this, building a house, use residential, whatever it's going to be, as a phase 2 to the project. Then let's take a look at phase 1 with that in mind and limit it to the 10 acres. And then we'll be able to understand, well, what's a reasonable buffer zone if you consider that a house would be coming in that knows that it's being built next to a golf,
right?
This property.
And I understand right now we have a 3-phase plan, which I submitted. Phase 1 is this building fully contained within the building and a parking lot that goes with that building. Phase 2 would be an outdoor miniature golf course that is on the 10 acres, fully on the 10 acres. Phase 3 potentially is a driving range that would be on the middle third. Again, still fully contained within the 10 acres. That's as far as I've thought about the development of these 14 acres. The balance was, okay, we're going to draw the line here. We're going to leave these 4 acres exactly as they are. I don't know what the plan is for that going forward. I don't have any plans for it. So I have nothing to disclose.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it would make sense for it to be commercial at some point, at which point I'd have to go through this process again and make a case for it to be commercial, or to leave it rural, residential, agricultural. I don't have a plan.
So I mean, I think in that sense, right, then, that is your plan, and any changes that you have to the future would be changes to the future. But that is what we're deciding right now. We're deciding on it with that 4-acre buffer zone, right? And an easement can be taken away by, mutual consent of the parties as well, or a special use permit can be amended, or a new one can be applied for that property. But for us to not consider that is a part of this project that we're approving right now, that's just not possible.
And I guess from my perspective, 4 acres tying potentially, I mean, according to what's written, tying up 4 acres forevermore, I have to take the worst case scenario. Like, it never can change. This is a restricted covenant that is never lifted. That's just too big a risk. That's going to scuttle the project, because I don't know what the plans are for that. I don't have plans for it, but that is, I mean, I can't even, from my read, I can't even walk on the property. I can't use it for anything. I can't even take down a tree, for instance, without approval. It's very restrictive.
Go
ahead.
If
I could, here's my thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I feel that putting a residence on that 4 acres or 125 by whatever in there is a mistake. We're trying to give residents as a buffer, and that's what this is supposed to be. And we're putting a residence right next to a commercial property. And I know people will say that you built that house knowing it was commercial property, but we've seen it, or I've seen it anyway. Jim's seen it. Luke has seen it with the rock, where people knew that was going in, and complained. Lots of complaints. So me personally, I'm against the residents being in that 4 acres. But part of it, this just keeps going round and round and changing, and part of me says, frankly, let's take Harrison right out of the picture. If we agreed to rezone this to C2, is that what we would do if Harrison wasn't here? And at that point, when the person came in and said, hey, listen, on this piece of property, if that was already C2, you would go through the special use process, right, and maybe we would put fences up there, maybe we'll put trees up there, maybe a combination of both. Maybe we'd say the fence has to be set off the property line, 75 feet, something like that. I mean, these are whatever the special use permit would dictate. And that would be that. You would have to abide by it.
Right.
But that's where I am. I don't know exactly what the next step is.
I'm comfortable rezoning this as commercial, as we've spoken about before. I'm comfortable with that. But there will be a point, whether it's the easement that we're talking about, or some point in the future, when we do need to consider the interests of the neighboring landowners. But not only that, but where you present a plan that has the 4 acres that's not touched, that we approve, that then cannot be developed until you were to come back and ask for something else. So here, I just, I think that's an important thing to understand, is that we're going to be approving the project that it is, and that will place restrictions on that section.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand. And I too feel like we've been round and round on this. We approached this with 10 acres in mind, not with 14 acres in mind. When I first described this project, my plan was to develop the 10 acres and leave the 4 acres. I think I introduced the term buffer zone.
Right.
It's 4 acres untouched, agricultural, rural, residential. We're not planning on doing anything with it. It would stay exactly as it is. We wouldn't be able to do anything with it other than what we could do through a special use permit coming through the board seeking approval, right, to do something with those 4 acres.
Well, if you do leave it residential and agriculture and it meets all the parameters, then you could build a house on there without coming for a special use permit, right? That's really the issue here. So we could rezone it all as commercial and then deal with it in the future. That's another potential option. I guess the only reason to retain the residential, the RR and the agricultural zone would be if you want to have a residence built on it at some point in the future.
If you don't protect the buffer zone, boards change. You come back here in 5 years, 10 years, whenever, board changes in.
Yep.
Come back in January.
Yeah. But seriously, what protection have we given the other landowner without having any covenants with that buffer zone? What that buffer zone is something we have to determine. I think you mentioned that, Joe, before. We should determine that as a board. You offered up 4 acres when you first came and talked to us as a buffer zone, that you were going to leave the trees, you weren't going to touch it. That was, you said that. I didn't say it, but that's, so that I interpret that as you're not going to use that property.
That's right.
You're satisfied never touching that property. But now you're changing that.
I didn't go that far.
No, you didn't say never.
If the buffer zone means something, if that's like a reserved word and it has some meaning outside of the way I use it, that was my error. My plan and what I proposed and what I submitted was to change 10 of the 14 acres, leaving 4 acres untouched, leaving it as it's currently zoned.
Which is all we're saying, Harrison, just that we're trying to put, okay, when does it change? Because you would like to have it whenever you would like to change it.
Right.
You
And
don't want the time limit. You don't want the 5 years. You don't want the other
No.
property being zoned commercial. You just want it when,
No, I
when
think this
you want to
is,
change it. And
Yeah.
that's
As a
the part.
property owner, right? I mean, that seems reasonable to me.
Well, see, that's the part that part of this agreement would mean nothing, because you could come back the day after we said that, okay, this 4 acres is not going to be developed until Harrison wants it to be. The day we sign that agreement, you decide to develop it. What's to stop you from doing that?
I mean, I
and
think
not
that
you
there's-
personally, but if you sold
I know,
it,
this
if
is
you
a-
sold it to someone else and they did the same thing. So
But we
it's
need
kind of in
something.
Chuck's scenario where it's, we respect what you're doing and saying, but if you weren't involved, what would we be doing with the land?
Well,
What Luke said.
Yeah, but I think that there's, I mean, if this is the approach that the 4 acres is going to be potentially something in the future, then in my mind, we look at the 10 acres and we'll look at that project, excluding the 4 acre as a buffer zone. And then there would need to be some, if there is a buffer zone, a fence or whatever it would be, that would then be put on that 10 acre parcel. If that's how we should look at this project, then I think as a board, I'm comfortable looking at a 10 acre project, if that's how you want to.
So what you're saying, Luke, is to rezone it all C2, and then in the special use permit, put the fence. Let's just say that 4 acres is 200 feet off the lot line or whatever. Put that fence at that 200-foot line.
Well, I mean, what I'm comfortable doing is even keeping it as RR in agriculture, if that's how you want to keep it. But then what we do is we consider this as a 10 acre project, and that's what we're looking at. And so it would require, if there's someone moves in, then you would have to have a fence between the 10 acre and the 4 acre, like whatever that moves, then now your project is the 10 acres, not the 14. And that's what the special use permit we would be looking at.
And what will stop him from developing that other 4 acres?
Well, if it's RR in agriculture, nothing.
Other than the fact it's not very easily developable land. It's at a quite a steep angle, I understand. It came up during the planning board meeting that the soil determines its use, not more so than the board or the owners. It's the topography and the soil. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to get in this in here. I think, and I've thought this from the beginning, and it's various reasons come not to do it, but I sort of agree with Mr. Kelly that look at the 10 acres. If the worst case scenario for that remaining 4 acres is residential, that's our worst case scenario if we leave it RR. We're going to end up with a house there and an unhappy neighbor who built after the project was developed. And I understand that has happened in the past, Chuck. But if we rezone the entire thing to C2 without a covenant, a deed restriction, which is severe, that's a severe tool for a board to use, the as right uses, there's a bunch of commercial as right uses in a C2. So we're opening up we're opening up that 4 acres to more developmental possibility than leaving it as RR and whatever it is. What is it? Not C2, agricultural, RR and agricultural. So I am perfectly happy if we rezone 10 acres of this C2, then we're going to deal with the special use permit and how we're going to buffer it against the neighbors. And then the worst thing that we could happen to us is a house goes in on those 4 acres. And to me, that's not the worst possible scenario.
That's not exactly true, though.
What have I missed?
And it's because a future owner could come forward and say, I'd like to request a rezoning of this RR in agriculture to a commercial zone. And we as a board don't have the same tools to control that decision as we do with a special use permit. And what we need to look at is the surrounding area. Does it correspond to the comprehensive plan? And looking at that property, we'd be looking at the same things we're looking at now with this request to a commercial.
Are you saying it'd be harder to say no?
Yes, it would be even more difficult because the neighboring lot is now a commercial zone.
Yeah.
So we leave this the board. If the board said no to that, we'd be
No, but I mean, if
susceptible
it's our agriculture and it's say it's divided, let's say 4 acres, give or take, you might need 10 and a half acres, you might need whatever you need. But say the 4 acres, if it's kept as rural residential agriculture, you're saying the board it would be hard for the board if a developer came in and said, I want to put something there that's outside, I want to make it a C2, it would be hard for us to say no?
Correct. It's not an adequate protection to keep that lot not as commercial, because what are we using to determine whether or not we approve?
But you'd be looking at the neighbor next door though, the same way. And you'd say, wait, we don't want to make it commercial because
But it could be challenged because what is the character of the area around it? If there was a comprehensive plan that said something opposite, we would have much more to rest on, but we don't. And the current comprehensive plan that we have does say that should be a commercial area. So it leaves us susceptible to bad things if we were to.
if it's a commercial area, then where's the buffer zone? There's still, then we've eliminated any buffer zone.
If you rezone it all commercial, you could impose a buffer zone in your special use permit requirement.
Well, you're not going to say, okay, we're going to turn 4 acres into commercial zone and it's all going to be a buffer zone again.
Well, with a time limit on it, such as if the property to the south does become commercial, C2 or C1,
right.
at that point in time, then that buffer zone is.
And I agree, but that would be sort of the argument of the board, 10 years from now, that it is still a residential. What if it becomes a commercial? If it applies to commercial, then we could switch it, then we could do that. But
hey, how's it change the argument? Not argument, the discussion we're having right now. It's a creeping commercial zone. And we have all the powers available to us at this moment to decide the fate of this lot. But because we're giving another, however much frontage it is, 500 feet of frontage, that's going to negate our control over the remaining 200 feet?
No, I wouldn't say that our decision right now is completely within our hands. We're looking at parameters based on the request to rezone as a commercial, right? We could say no.
Which was a 10-acre request. It wasn't a 14-acre request.
Right. But with that 10-acre request, we are asked to rezone as commercial, and that decision could be challenged. And one of the ways that it could be challenged, if we were to say no, I don't want to put arguments into the, we haven't made that yet, but one of the ways in which it could be challenged is that this is spot zoning. It shouldn't be an RR and an A. That's not consistent with the area. That's not consistent with the comprehensive plan. And the town board was not authorized to maintain this or to even zone this as an RRA. It should be a commercial zone.
Well, it seems to me we're in that same peril today.
Right, which is why I'm saying that the if you leave the 4 as an RRNA, with that same logic, someone could come again.
Yes.
And we would also be making that decision within the same parameters.
Would be in the equal amount of peril as we are at this very moment.
No, I was saying what we don't want to do is we don't want to rely on it remaining an RR and A district as a protection for the southern landowner, because you could come back and apply to have it changed to a commercial much more easier than a covenant or a special use permit or whatever.
So I guess my next concern is, as Mr. Kelly indicated, he brought the 4-acre buffer zone to us, right? And now we've sort of made that a thing. We're all talking about a 4-acre buffer zone. if we do it all as a C2, the special use permit without a restrictive covenant, we could incorporate the buffer area within that. It might not be 4 acres,
As a one,
but it would be
two, three.
trees. It would be whatever it takes to keep it safe from, and then that special use permit will bind that barrier.
Which is exactly what I said. And I think that if the goal is to keep that as residential, then we would be looking at the 10 acres for the special use permit with that in mind, that your buffer zone would be on the 10 acres, not a 4-acre buffer zone, but a buffer zone that would be.
But we as a board, it sounds like we as a board feel more comfortable dealing with the entire 14 acres now, making a decision on it, and then using, maybe I'm jumping ahead on this, using the special permit as our tool by which to protect its southern neighbors.
I'm in agreement with that, Joe.
We've done it before, done it on Mill Road.
I mean, I'm
Not to speak for you, but I think you'd be more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I just don't like the permanence of the covenant because you just don't know what the future holds. And it makes me nervous to tie up land. So,
But I can agree with that, but a special use permit also has some permanence.
it does, but now we're dealing with an actual project that's moving forward as opposed to, at this point, we're still speculative, you know, you have a plan.
We could see a site plan with an easement, with a road going to the easement.
We can talk about the gas well, all this other stuff.
So,
And now 2 of them are. I didn't know there was 2 of them on.
There's 2 of them. They're on the drawings.
Yeah, well,
but what would be, I guess, the recommendation?
no offense, but.
Oh, I know.
They're not real clear.
Oh, yeah, we do need better drawings.
Yeah, I know.
At some point.
But my request on this, and I don't know if we're in alignment with this, is to understand more. If that 4 acres you're planning on you want to keep that residential agriculture because potentially you would sell it or build a house on it or something like that. I think that's good for us to know. And then we proceed looking at just only the 10-acre part of the project.
So the plan that you just described, I'm much more comfortable with. If the collective decision is, it makes more sense to rezone the 14 acres as C2, and then through the special use permit process, have a buffer fence or tree line or distance, something that doesn't tie up 4 acres forevermore, potentially. I'm more comfortable with that. Our plans are for 10 acres. It doesn't include the 4 acres. So if that property is C2, that's fine.
Yep.
I don't have plans for it. It's fine. If that's C2.
Yeah.
So having,
Okay. I think we're
having proposed that, my only other concern would be there are as of right uses in a C2 that would need a special use permit. So if we rezone the entire thing C2, this doesn't happen. We have a flower shop, doesn't sound terrible. Bookstore, sewing and knitting supplies, bicycle sales, repairs, newsstand, and tourism related materials, and barbershops. That's the risk we run.
which are not as.
Not turn into a barbershop.
Which Joe are not as invasive.
I agree.
On the neighboring
I agree. I just
landowner,
wanna
and
make
so
that-
not
Correct.
a large.
I agree.
risk. So
So you come to a barbershop there.
I'm shortly, I won't need to.
So just as long as that's known that, but you're right, it's not as invasive.
not as
Yeah,
invasive.
and I
So I,
appreciate that we're having this discussion because I think we want to do what's best for our town, but we don't. You kind of just pile something on you that you don't, with due respect, don't understand or don't know what the future. So I think that understanding that permanence is important and understanding what everyone said, but the fact that you don't have plans for it, but you're okay with it becoming a C2, that's not gonna, scuttle your decisions today.
And
It's helpful.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you more about this. Because when I did read it, I was like, oh boy, this is like forevermore tying up 4 acres. And I don't have plans for it now, but I don't know the future. I've got plans for the next, I don't know how it's going to take us to get through phase 3, but my plans right now is just to get through phase 1. That's
right.
My struggle,
And I think
just
we
to get through
appreciate
phase
that,
1.
but you never know. Next week you could
And
sell property for whatever reason, and the next person comes in and or you're halfway into the project and that happens. You get investors
and I did
involved and things like that. So it's I think we have to look at this a little more
absolutely, and it's
to the future.
I do understand that. I did speak with some individuals afterwards and expressed, okay, at some point I'm gonna die, right? And then what happens? Right? So I get it. And I appreciate, honestly, as a neighbor, I appreciate the role that you guys play and the fact that you are looking at it this way, because, I could be the next homeowner next to a property. And I understand it. And believe it or not, that is the thinking behind why we said, okay, we're going to develop 10 acres. We're going to leave this. But like I said, it scares me to not be able to do anything with it forevermore.
I think this way probably works better for everyone. Gives you a little less uncertainty.
Yep, I'm comfortable with that. Like we've come back to where we started, didn't we? Pretty much. And I know it's a difficult process that is part of it, especially some board members, but
I think it get fleshed out sometimes,
Yeah.
Do we want to ask Bridget to write up a local law?
Rezone it?
To rezone that as a C2?
I'm okay with that.
And we'll, after that, set the public hearing in the next meeting or whatever. At least it'll give us another opportunity to think about it and change our minds again.
Martha, do we have to vote on that? To do a local law or not?
You can vote to authorize her to do it if you want to
We do that in the meeting. Can we do it right now or
during the meeting.
during the meeting? All right.
so then I think
Thank you.
rezone the entire lot as a C2 and then the real fun starts.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, on that map thing, whatever you provided us, it was very unclear as to the frontage. But this will come up during the special use stuff, so it looked like it was 100 feet of frontage on that buffer zone, and then there was a 104 tucked in not to scale, and it made it very hard to.
Yeah, there's a little break, I guess, in the line. So they gave them two
That's
measures.
right, but it wasn't, but the lack of
But
not being to scale. So
we'll-
it's,
yeah, we-
yeah, it's all come out in the wash.
Okay.
All right.
And then when
Yeah,
the special-
Oh, they're maps.
There's a long ways to go.
Okay, all right. All right. Cool. Moving on. Next, we have the Aurora Municipal Center outside sign. Martha has acquired tried to get 3 bids. Visual Impact was the only one that came up with a concrete sign and installation. We turn of the century, what they want, before we even start, they wanted $300 to design it. And they wouldn't give us a price on the dimensions and everything we told them, so. And then Abbott sign and banner had no response. Just throwing it out there if you guys still want to do this. Sign would go probably either by the
right there.
flagpole or right by the entrance of the parking lot on Oakwood.
Yeah.
And it would say Aurora Municipal Center with the logo of the village on one side and the town on the other.
Is this the contingency funds or where would we?
I can't hear you.
Contingency funds?
Yes, yeah, we have contingency fund of balance of almost $11,000 right now. So that would go under A1620.422 buildings and grounds.
I'm okay with going forward with it.
Is that next year's budget or this year's budget?
No, we're trying to, I think, talking to Kathleen, it'd be great to get it under this.
Oh,
year,
gotcha.
because we
Okay.
Wouldn't have to. go
Yeah,
in next
yeah,
year.
yeah. Good.
So there's some money left in this year's budget. The building's almost 4 years old now, and we still don't have a sign.
Yeah.
Again, it's something that
I'm
I'll blame it on COVID because we can blame everything on COVID, but we were gonna do it. We just, it just didn't get done. So if you guys are good with that, well, I don't know if we got on the, yep. Okay, we'll put that on the agenda. All right, so next we'll start our regular meeting. And number 1 is public hearings, which we have none. Number 2, a motion to approve the November 13th, 2023 meeting minutes and the November 15th, 2023 special meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Jim,
Second.
second by Luke. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That's carried. Next, we have audience one. Opportunity for anybody in the audience to come up and address the board on any items that are on the agenda. Nobody? Unfinished business. We have the motion to, need a motion to rezone. Oh. For
Audience one.
audience, okay. Who do we have?
Hi, this is Therese Campanelli from 258 Olean Street.
Yeah.
Hello, sorry I couldn't be there in person. I've listened to the entire discussion about the rezoning, and I had a couple questions, as well as a couple comments. The first, just to clarify, under consideration right now is to rezone everything as a C2, all 14 acres. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. My concern with that is a drip drip effect. Once 14 acres is rezoned as a C2, that makes it easier, in my opinion, if the current owner is saying they only want to do something with 10 acres. But as soon as they have the entire 14 acres rezoned as commercial, I think that makes their argument a little bit smoother when they want to do something with those 4 acres. Sure, right now they're saying they don't want to do anything with it, but once it's rezoned to a C2, they could come into the next meeting and say, well, we've changed our plans for the special permit and now we want to do all 14 acres. Then what happens to that neighbor to the south? Because now it's been just, now that whole area is a C2. So doesn't that make them a step, the owner of the land, a step further in that direction into turning it the type of commercial property they want it to be? I don't feel that's enough protection for the neighbor to the south. In addition, my other question is, with a C2, I know that it was mentioned that there were certain types of businesses that could be approved for that area under a C2. I think under a C2, if I'm not mistaken, something under, is it 12,000 feet square footage could be approved under a C2. Is that correct?
Teresa, it's 10,000, but it's still limited to as right businesses. This is Joe, by the way. Businesses that do not need a special use permit are flower shops, arts and craft stores, bookstores, sewing and knitting supplies. So they're not businesses that are intended to bring people from far and wide. So it's limited customer businesses, essentially, like it would serve the local and immediate surrounding area.
And in that case, if an owner, say, decided to build a business that is 10,000 square feet or less in the 10 acres, and then they wanted to come in and add something onto the 4 acres, say a golf course, does that count with the 10 acres? Or is it separate because it's 4 acres? Because now you're expanding the footprint of a business, which is much greater than was originally proposed. And again, I'm not just referring to what Mr. Harrison is presenting as what he wants to do with this land. I'm asking as a whole, because again, as everyone has said, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but tomorrow he could come in, say he wants to sell the land. And then we go through the whole process again. And it's been noted that the town is earmarking this area as commercial.
So the question is the additional 4 acres, doesn't matter if it's a part of the 14 or it's a part, or if it's a separate 4 acre. If you're going to do something that's not as of right, then it's going to require a special use permit and it will require town board approval.
So if it doesn't require a special, if it's under 10,000 feet, like it's outdoors because it's a golf course now, it doesn't require a special permit use?
It would require a special use permit. Anything other than those uses that Joe had read out would require a special use permit.
And even those as of right uses require a site plan review.
I see. Okay. So then I guess I go back to my original statement that I feel that this is a drip drip effect of granting all of it is a C2. Because the plan could change tomorrow. It doesn't matter if this is a golf plan or anything. The plan can change tomorrow as to what goes on that land. Right
Well,
now, the current applicant is saying, I want to only use 10 acres of it. But what if they come in then and say, I want to use 11 acres. I want to use 12 acres. I know it's sloped. I've heard that part of it. But there's ways to build in there into the slopes, aren't there?
So any sort of changes to any plan moving forward would require town board approval.
Yeah,
You
and
cannot-
another site plan review and another special use permit, go through the whole process again.
Okay, well, again, my main concern for this is, or another concern for this is the character of the area and the amount of space that a commercial property can use. And as it relates to the character of Aurora and the town of Aurora and the village too, and what type of businesses are allowed. But that sounds like that goes to the site plan and not the land itself.
Well, those issues actually are much more appropriate to discuss as a part of the comprehensive plan review, which is a process that we've started and are working on a request for proposal. So for the long-term impact or the character of the neighborhood there, the most important, I would say, document would be the comprehensive plan, because all zoning would need to conform with that comprehensive plan. So for those issues, if you're thinking more long-term, and if you're referring drip effect to the neighboring lots as well, that would be able to bring in other commercial zones, that all will be decided based on many years of community input and a lot of planning and a lot of money to develop that comprehensive plan. So we certainly encourage you to bring your thoughts when that process begins.
Yeah.
I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Nope. Just thinking before we go forward with this, should the landowner to the south, which is a residence, right?
Yep.
Be notified before we vote on something like this?
We'll have a public.
Would they get notified normally as a public hearing?
A public hearing after the law.
Okay, I want to make sure that
Yeah.
the property owners are notified.
And we
Because we're
did
just gonna-
code red this on
We're
previous
just voting
meetings.
on a
So we
local
can,
law right
we-
now.
yeah, well, we're not voting today, I think.
Do we zone?
We're just asking Bridget to write it.
Right,
Yeah.
And
that's what I mean.
If-
We have
Yeah.
to Bridget to write a local law for rezoning of that.
yeah,
And there's two neighboring properties that touch it. One comes around the top and
Yeah.
touches it. So yeah, so both of those neighbors certainly.
And we will code red it again for the public hearing,
Right.
geo-targeted to there.
They're mailed the notice also.
Okay. All right, so unfinished business. We need a motion to go ahead and ask the town attorney
You
to,
gotta add, you have to add it.
we have to add the motion, the rezoning, asking the town attorney to write a local law to rezone the Olean Road property. Can we add that, please? Motion?
I'll make that
Motion
motion.
by Chuck,
Second.
second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that's carried. And now a motion to authorize the town attorney to design a local law to rezone the Olean property to C2.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Chuck,
Second.
second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. All right, moving on. New business. I did put something on your desk on a justice court action, on a car that has been illegally parked for over a year. Can we add that would be number G or letter G, for justice action? Do I have a motion to add that?
So moved.
Motion by Joe,
I'll second.
second by Jim, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. So we'll go right to new business. And we have the temporary use permit for soccer tournament for Lancaster. And at Knox State Park to be held on 7/26 through 7/28, 2024. Start dates 10 a.m. on 7/24 to end date of 8 o'clock on 7/28. Do we have a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the temporary use permit for the Lancaster Depew Soccer Club?
So moved.
Motion by Chuck,
Second.
second by Joe. Any discussion?
Just a discussion, I think that was brought up earlier, with regards to they're gonna be, they mentioned that they're gonna be purchasing or renting, I'm sorry, the porta potties.
Yeah.
So if we can make that a part of the motion as well, that
Okay,
They,
I'll add that to the motion.
Thank
Motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the application for temporary use permit for Lancaster Depew Soccer Club for July 26th to July 28th, 2024, to include the addition of adding porta johns to the agreement.
Yeah.
Do you know how many?
adequate number.
Adequate number. Good. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll make that motion.
Chuck,
Second.
Joe,
Doing all the hard work over here.
Mhm.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. Next, we have the application for the Eclipse parking, and I think we decided to get further information, and I need a motion to table.
Motion.
Motion by Luke,
I'll second.
second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. Highway purchases, the elite vacuum for 2024. This is a request by Dave Gunner to request the purchase of an X-Trim vac by ODB model whatever from Stevenson Equipment for $125,590.82 to be paid out of the 2024 budget from account DB 5130.217. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Joe,
I'll second.
second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. And then the street sweeper, this is a request also from Dave to purchase the Johnson Butcher vacuum street sweeper for the amount of $278,900, which will be paid from DB 5130.217 in the 2025 budget, contingent upon approval and inclusion of the 2025 year budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Luke,
I'll second.
second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Next, we have request from Joe to go to the Association of Towns 2024 conference meeting and seminar in New York City, not to exceed the cost of $2,000. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Jim,
I'll second.
second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain. Or should I abstain from that or does it matter? I'll abstain.
It's not a
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good point.
All in favor?
Aye.
I opposed, and that is carried. Next, we have the highway mini bids. And this is for the pickup truck, for the highway department. We have a motion to approve the purchase from Van Border Ford in the amount of $48,510.12.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Chuck,
Second.
second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. Next, we have the purchase of the municipal sign, outside sign for the grounds here from Visual Impact. And that is in the amount of $2,900, and that includes design, sign, and installation. The only thing I'd say is, do you guys have a preference where it goes in that little area before, as you drive in, or next to the pole? I kind of like the area by the entranceway, but what do you think? Yeah.
Are you, your preference is it where it's pictured or in a different area?
There's. Yeah, I'm thinking, doesn't show it here.
You're thinking to the right of that, Jim?
Yeah, there's an area right here.
Hey, which way would it face? The parking lot?
Yes. Well, no, it would still face Oakwood.
So it's along the
Would you
building?
be able to see it from Oakwood and from,
This one you'll be able to see from
Whatever.
Payne. It doesn't matter to me. I'm throwing two areas that it could go, also could go in front here, but I don't know if that.
and then the next question I have is there is, at least in this design, an address on there. I can't even read it, 580 something.
Yeah, 583-575, right on the top.
So where's 583 and where's
No,
575?
585.
We're
585, I'm
Village.
sorry.
585 is the village mailing address.
Yeah, so would it make sense to put it even in the middle of the building? Because you got the village on one side and us on the other?
We could.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about, we could take a look at it.
Yeah.
And just as to determine where we put it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little while before we get the sign, right?
Was that?
It's gonna be a little while before we get the sign.
Well, I would, the important thing to do is get it in this calendar, pay for it in. this
Yeah,
calendar
yeah.
year, You know,
Yeah,
get it on this budget.
yeah, but when it's ready, then we can tell them where to.
Right.
I'll move to have Visual Impact Science, who was the low bidder. For the purchase of the sign and installation of the sign.
To be
$29.
determined, this area to be determined.
Right.
Okay, do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Second for Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. Next is from Liz Cassidy. And this is a violation of a storage of a silver Nissan that has been there for over a year, several letters, several visits, and just non-compliant. So she wants to take that to court action. So do I have a motion to take Mr. Kaufman from Knox Road to Justice Court action on a removal of his unlicensed vehicle?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Joe,
I'll second.
second by Chuck. Any discussion?
Yeah, I will be abstaining, but I can vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried.
Abstain.
All right, communications and reports. We have the Senior Center and Building Department 2023 report. We have the New York State Department of Transportation response to Blakely Road east of Olean, and they reduced the speed from 45 to 40. And also talked to Gina, and she's gonna get out there and look at signage, possible signage for that road. So that doesn't happen often, just so you know. Also, I noticed that we do also have we got a four-way stop at Center and Blakely. So we'll see how that helps that corner. And then we also got from Comp Alliance, we got an award notification of $1,859. And that's for the 2023 year, and based on our mod and you know, our rating, our mod rating and our claims. So that was good. And that is it on that. Business from the board members, and I'm going to start this one tonight. I'd like to congratulate the three candidates for this board for 2024 starting. The Supervisor Chuck Snyder, Councilman Luke Wazunski, and Councilman to be Ray,
Rosin.
is it Rosin or Ray? Rosin, Rosin, okay. So congratulations, guys. Thank you for a clean run and good luck in the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then I'm gonna go right to Luke. Next.
Yeah, nothing to report tonight. I think I'm just, thanks for the holiday lights on the AMC. I requested, I think last couple of years, not in time to get them. And this year we were early enough, and then we were able to find the funds. I think they really look good. That with the signs around the building and the Climate Smart Community bronze plaque downstairs. We get a sign out front, really sprucing it up. Yeah. So thanks for that.
I'll say nothing tonight, and I mean nothing tonight.
Oh, I've got one. I've got a couple more things actually just remembered after that comment.
Wow. Jim.
I'm gonna pass. The weather's frightful and I'm thankful I got a new pair of shoes, so.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
I was gonna say nothing, so you saved yourself no time at all.
Good. All right, audience, this is an opportunity for anybody in the audience to speak to the board on any items whatsoever. Nobody? Had enough? Staff reports. Doug? Nothing? Nothing? Okay. Chief? Chris?
Thank you for the rec department. I'm sure you guys have seen my budget transfers, so we're over on revenue. We've got a lot more vendors working for us, which is nice. We also had East also hosted the Kiwanis meet up at the high school earlier this month. 360 athletes, about 1,000 people that came through and coordinated with about 80 or so parents to run it. So very good event for the town for us.
And that Kiwanis meeting is the Kiwanis Action Club.
Yes, yeah, Kiwanis Action Club.
Yeah, yeah, just to be clear.
That's right.
Anything from the building department tonight? Okay. All right, then I'll move to approve the abstract. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Joe.
I'll second.
Second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. And a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Jim.
Second.
Second by Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you for coming tonight. Please drive.